Hey everybody, it's me, Language Bay, rocking with the best. I'm here with Antalita today, and we're going to share her language journey. So, first and foremost, I want to thank you for coming on today. Thank you so much for
Thank you.
coming.
Thank
I'm so
you.
excited to hear about your language learning journey. First and foremost, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you. How are you?
I'm doing all right. Thanks for asking.
Good. Good.
All right, so just to get started, tell us where you're located and what's your heritage?
Okay. Well, I'm currently living in Merida, Mexico. We've been here for about 4 years, and my heritage is good old-fashioned Black. I'm, I'm from the ATL in the United States, and I've lived there my whole life until I moved here to Merida, Mexico. So that's it. Nothing super
No,
exciting.
it is exciting, and the reason why I asked this is, I mean, although we do have people who are Black but from other countries. I
Caribbean and
do like to
yeah,
ask because I think it's very important that when you guys are sharing your stories and people resonate with you because they're also a lot of the people in the community are Black. They're not mixed race or anything like that. They're just,
right,
like you said, good old
right.
fashioned Black. I'm good old fashioned Black as far as I know. So um, I think it's very important people know that. So that's good.
Thank
So
you.
you said you're in
Cool.
Merida.
Yes, Merida, Mexico. We are about, I would say, 3 hours west of Cancun in the Yucatan, on the
Okay.
Yucatan Peninsula. So it's very, very hot here. We have our community, though, our Black community I've been here 4 years, almost 4 years now. And when I first got here, you could see sprinkles of Black people here and there. Now we have such a large community. Like I'm on admin on one of our Facebook groups, Brothers and Sisters in Merida, and now we have over 3,000 members.
Oh
All
my
3,000
goodness.
don't live here. Yes, all 3,000 don't live here now, but the group, it's about at least half of that live here, and the other half they're considering the move. They're interested in moving to Merida. That's how much it has grown
Oh
since I've
wow.
been here. And it's a combination of, it used to be just a lot of single Black ladies, which was odd. I was like, why is it only single? I'll tell you more about me, but now they're families. They're coming in families, and it's just such a beautiful sight because when I first got here, it's me, my husband, and I have a 6-year-old daughter. But
Hmm.
I'm also a mother of, I have 4 children altogether. We have 4 children and 3 adult children. I'm 47 years old, so I have kids in their 20s, adults in their 20s, and they
Hmm.
didn't move down here with us. And so one of my biggest concerns before moving was I still wanted my daughter to have people to look like her, or at least, make sure she knows that she's still Black.
Yes,
Very
exactly.
important. Yeah, and so when we first got here, there wasn't much of that happening, and now she has so many Black friends her
Mhm.
age, and it's just beautiful. Sorry, I went on and on, but
No,
I
that
just
is
had to give you
amazing because the
that.
thing is, we also do have women in the community that are looking to leave the US. We have
Mm,
people posting in the Facebook group, and I will talk more about that towards the end. But we have
yeah.
people that post in this Facebook group. I think we even have a pinned post. I called it Operation whatever, Operation Leave the US. I don't know what it's called. I don't know.
Right.
But everybody, I said, hey, I think it's a good idea if everybody just post, what they know about what country. Like for instance, if you're living in Latvia, you could post, oh, this is what you need to do if you want to live here. It's really easy, whatever.
Right.
So I had posted some links about what you need to do, like if you want to live in Germany. I had looked
Yeah.
into the Netherlands because I had considered that, and I had posted about Daft, which is like I think if you have like 2 or 3,000 euros, you get a residence permit for a year, and then you can just keep extending. You
Sweet.
just have to give them a business idea. So
That's
I think it's
easy.
also
Wow.
good to know, like, oh, okay, because people are always looking to leave the US and looking at different places to go.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's amazing. Okay, so now we're going to get into it. So obviously you speak Spanish, right?
I speak Spanish. Yes.
And then are there any other languages that you have touched?
So it's funny because in high school I took French. So I didn't start taking Spanish until I went to Georgia State and Spelman, and I started taking Spanish there because I wasn't using French anywhere. I didn't know anybody else to speak French too.
Right.
So I took Spanish, and then I started playing with Mandarin, and I say playing with Mandarin because I kind of fell off after a year. But I would like to take that back up at some point. So those are my languages. Of course, English is my first language, my native language, and I'm fluent in Spanish. And what I currently do now is I teach Spanish. I know that you had asked me, like, what do you do? I know that was like the next thing. What do you do
No, go
next?
into
I,
it. Go
I'm
into it.
sorry. It's just like when it's on the brain, it's like, let it come on out, right?
Mhm.
But I'm a Spanish teacher. So I teach I teach expats here because they, for some reason, they feel more comfortable with me. And even though it's amazing. I'm living here in Mexico teaching Spanish, and got all these Mexicans here that could teach it, but I also understand what it's like to learn it. And so the methods that I use to help my students understand is a little bit different than someone that's grew up speaking it and just know that they know it, you know.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of the feedback, at least, that I get from the students. And then even though I teach adults, my main focus is also on children because, as I said earlier, I have a 6-year-old daughter,
Hmm.
and my main thing was making sure that she got it. And she's fluent. She's been here for since she was 3, so and she's in school and everything. She speaks better than me.
Oh, nice. Oh, that's
Yeah,
lovely.
yeah,
I can see that though. Like sometimes it is good to learn certain things from someone who shares the same native language as you, or somebody who also had to
right,
overcome that, because there's
right,
certain things
right.
they can explain in a way that you can receive that a native person, because like you said, it's like I don't know, it's just like that. And
Right.
then I've had that experience before, like with German and Spanish, like, why do you say this? I don't understand. And it's like, I don't know, we just do.
We
Um,
just say
it
right.
just like that. I even had I'm just gonna say this and then, go back to but I even had one time somebody was supposed to be helping me with German. And my problem is I'm fluent, but I don't know the articles. And there's three articles. Um I forgot what it's called, nominative. So like there's three direct articles, and then there's
Okay.
like a whole table of all these indirect articles. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So I always fumble on that. Like, is it der, die, das? So it's feminine, masculine, and neutral. And
Okay.
where Spanish is just masculine, feminine, and I just feel like you have a 50% chance of getting it right.
Right.
And with Germans, like you have a
That's the 30%.
33.3333%. And I had this person, like, I'd be like, hey, can you help me with the articles? I'm really struggling because I can't really. And I'd be like, okay, what's this word? And he'd be like, well, what does it look like? I don't know. That's what I'm asking you. What do you mean? What?
Looks like
I
I
don't
don't
know if
know.
it's feminine or what.
Right.
I feel like with Spanish, it's different because it's like, even though they do have exceptions like
Yeah.
encima or la mano, like there's exceptions, but for the most part, you're like, oh, okay, it ends with an A. I'll guess it's feminine
I guess it's feminine, right?
and move on with life. And it's like,
Exactly.
and then the thing is like, a non-native can explain these things to you, like, hey, this is what I've observed. This is how I was able to make it stick.
Right. Right. Exactly. So yeah, that's a lot of, and it helped me along the way too. Once I got, okay, let me back up a little bit. My journey, so yeah, I started taking Spanish in college. And so like I told you, I'm 45. I was an older college student because I transferred from Spelman to Georgia State, and then it was a long time. It took me like 10 years to graduate, honestly. But during those 10 years, I did a study abroad in Guadalajara. And at the time, I had 3 small kids. That's what took me so long, the kids. And I was like, my professor was like, are you going to go on the study abroad trip? And I was like, no, man, I got 3 kids. He was like, bring them with you. This was 15 years ago. He said,
Really?
bring them with you. Yes, changed my life. So my kids were
Oh my
six,
God,
nine,
that's
and 10.
awesome.
Awesome. And my husband at the time, because we have some people, they have this stigma still about Mexico. And I was like, babe, my professor said I can bring the kids with me to study abroad. And my husband was like, you're not taking my damn kids to Mexico.
Oh my gosh.
And I was like, okay, we're gonna have to pray on this because this is a once in a lifetime opportunity. Long
Right.
story short, I did it. We lived with the family. I'm still friends with that family now in Guadalajara. And so are my kids, and they follow each other and the other kids that they grew up with down there because we would go back after that first summer. Every year we would go back to Guadalajara and continue. I had them in classes studying Spanish. I would take even more classes and so forth and so on. And that became my love fest for Mexico. So yeah, but anyway, yeah, so experiencing it in the setting with other people that were learning just like me, with the other students that came on the trip, and we were all helping each other, even though we were in an immersive environment, we were still able to help each other with the language learning process together. So that makes sense.
Yes, I'm
Okay.
floored that the professor said, bring them with you. I think that's life
Yes,
changing.
very life changing. Because my at the time I didn't work. I was like stay at home, but still a student. And so my husband traveled a lot, and oftentimes I would take the children with me to class. And they sat in the class, they did their homework, they didn't make noises and stuff. And I guess he was like, you know what, they're well behaved, bring them. And so it was, yeah, just amazing.
I
And
think
now
that's
here I am
amazing.
15 years later. Thank you. Thank you. So
Oh my goodness. And all right, and so basically that's I mean, I don't know, like that is very impactful. Like I don't even know what to ask now after that. Let me just try to see here. What do I ask? Because that's really impactful. I mean, I don't know if you have any other experiences with language that were as impactful as that one as far as
I think that would be the most because, when you're living with the family, and it's funny because the family that we stayed with, they didn't speak English. And remember, this is early on in my
right.
language journey. So I'm speaking very basic Spanish, but it showed the importance of, you're probably familiar with TPR and physical response. We did a lot of gesturing and a lot of pointing and stuff. And it
Mhm.
was hilarious.
Oh my
And
god.
yeah, and so one of the things was I'll tell you a quick funny story was I took my kids. I didn't know that this was summer for us, but in Mexico they were still in like regular school. And so I enrolled them thinking it was just a summer camp. And so the kids were there. I sent them to school, no lunch, just a little backpack and notebook. And I'm thinking, hey,
Mhm.
it's summer camp. Came home, they were like, Mama, you didn't send us any lunch, but all the kids shared their food with us. I didn't know I was supposed to pack them a lunch because in the States, you go to school and you get lunch,
Yeah.
right? Was so embarrassed. I felt so bad. But at the same time, I was so moved that all those other kids, they didn't see, they didn't mind sharing their food with my kids, so none of them went hungry. They could have had a little bit more, of course, but they also made friends like just then. And of course, remember, they're all different. These people at the time in Guadalajara, people would stop and look, they still kind of look at you. I'm sure you know how it is. You're in Germany walking around and they would look and they start calling my middle son little Obama.
Oh
Like
my
Obama.
gosh.
Oh my goodness, it was amazing. And it was like, wow, these people are really kind and we're different and they know we're different, but at the same time we're the same because we're all human.
Right.
I had a guy stop me in the middle of the street and put a rosary around my neck, and invited us to come to his house for dinner. We didn't go, but he was like, come meet my family, and people still, do you get that experience where people stop and take pictures of you in the street and want
No,
to take
thank
pictures
God.
with you?
But I
No?
have had people like when I came back from New York last year, I went to visit my family. I went and got my hair braided. So I came back with my hair braid and I had
Mm.
somebody like, oh my God, you're so beautiful. Can I touch your hair? And I was just like, no. And they were very taken aback that I said no. And I was just like, no, because number one, I am not, this is not a zoo, you don't get to
Right.
pet my
To
fur,
pet
I'm
me.
just a regular
Right.
person, right? I'm just like
Right.
you, like it's just and then the second thing is, COVID's still a thing at that time. COVID was still a
That
thing. People
part.
were still required to wear masks, at least here they were. Like people are still required to wear masks. Like what why would you think you can just touch me?
Right. Right. Yeah.
And so I don't get the pictures, but I do get that from time to time. They stare a lot here. They're like, and it's not
Yeah.
subtle. It's like,
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah. And so I'm kind of immune to that now. I'm used to it. And they don't stare as much here in Merida now, like I said, because we're coming down here taking over, I guess. I don't know. But my daughter, they're not, my daughter all the time, and people, oh, que linda, and they want to, and I'm like, woosah, because I remember back then they were doing it then, and I know it's not a negative thing, and it's mostly like the abuelas, they want to come and touch and do blessings and things, but it is still kind of unnerving, because like you said, we are people. We're not animals to be stroked and pet, but I know they don't mean it with any malice. So I kind of like, but you're right. Then the peak of COVID. 50 feet, please.
Right. And it's just like,
Right.
why? I just don't understand that. Like, I would never go up to a random pregnant woman and be like, "Can I touch your belly?" Like, why?
Right.
I know people
Right.
do it, but for me,
Yeah.
it's like, why would I do that? I have no interest in that. Now, if it's my sister, I have an interest because, like, oh, let
Big
me touch. Is
difference.
it okay?
Right.
But for a random
Yeah.
person, why do I need to touch their belly for? I
Yeah.
just don't
Yeah.
understand it. Maybe it's just the Virgo in me, but that's not the logic don't make sense. So,
Right.
um,
I'm with you. I'm with you.
but yeah, so I guess the next question, which is not quite related, but so just wanted to ask you, what do you do professionally? I know you mentioned you were a Spanish teacher, but are there any other things
Right.
that you do?
So, I wouldn't say professionally, but almost because I do it so much. So I last year I decided that I wanted to run an Ironman race. Are you familiar with Ironman?
I've heard of it. I don't know the details, but I have heard of it.
Okay, so it's a triathlon and you swim, bike, run. And so the distance, so I did half Ironman. It's called Ironman 70.3, total of 70.3 miles. You
Mhm.
swim 1.2 miles, you cycle 56 miles, and then you run a half marathon, 13 miles. And so I started training for that last year to do the one in Cozumel in September. And so I did, and I was not an athlete at all. But the reason I bring it up is because the time it took to train, it was every day 2 hours a day, Monday through Sunday, every day training in the morning and in the night. And so it consumed my life because when I wasn't training, I was sleeping or eating and getting ready to train again. And so after that race, I kind of was like, man, I like look, I like where I am. I don't want to do another Ironman, but I don't want to lose this.
Right.
So I continue to train and I do smaller races now. I have a race coming up in Cancun this weekend. So I don't train as much, but I'm able to teach now and train. So that's what I do. I teach during the day. I do it adults twice a week and kids twice a week on alternating days. And then I'm in the gym. So, I mean, I'm not like, ooh, my goal, I've always said this for years. I want Angela Bassett's arms.
Oh
I
my
want to
gosh.
have those arms. Yes, girl. And
I
now the
don't
Woman
blame you.
King and all these beautiful, yeah, I want that. I want that. So eventually, but that's what I do with most of my time. And so, in working with the kids, we also do the way because children are different. I don't have them in a classroom setting where this is how we're learning. We're outside at the park. We're doing stuff. We're learning through play, I guess you could say, through play, through observation, and actively doing things. So we're out and about and we're doing it in Spanish. And it's funny because I even have Mexican kids join us and they're not learning Spanish, but they're learning whatever we're doing in their language. So it's like a 2-2 kind of win-win situation.
Nice.
So yeah, that's what I do. And I mentioned my husband. He's Mr. Mexico, I guess, here because his name's like Mexit Plans Monty, and he has a whole YouTube on how to move to Mexico and move to
Oh,
Merida and
nice.
all the things. Yeah, yeah, teaching everybody all the steps you need for residency, like you talked about and stuff. And that's I put that on him because I was doing my channel for fun, and then he started doing that, and I was like, well, if you're doing all that, then you can you
You
can
can
have
keep
it.
doing it.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I think that's very important what you mentioned about teaching the kids how to do something in Spanish. I
Hmm.
read about that a while ago. I think I even did a YouTube on it, content and language integrated learning. I read an article about
Exactly.
that, and they were saying that, like, for instance, the Border Patrol, because the people obviously on the south side, bordering Mexico, they need to know a level of Spanish. And they were saying that
Right.
they get Spanish training when they get hired, but for whatever
Wow.
reason, they were coming out of the training not able to speak Spanish still. So they started integrating so they started training them to do tasks in Spanish.
In the
And
language.
they
There you
said
go.
that by doing that, they were able to increase the amount of people who, I guess, graduated the training program to be able to
Right.
speak, have functional Spanish. And I thought that was really cool. I actually did that as well with my last company, because for whatever reason there was a software they were using, SAP, and even though it is, you should be able to use it in multiple languages, like you could just change the settings, for some reason it wasn't
Hmm.
working in English, so I had to basically
Oh,
get trained how to use it in German, because
Oh,
the
wow.
English, like I would type in English so that it will start in English, it will load, and then certain transactions it would just crash. And I would be like, "Hey, this doesn't work." And then my
Right.
colleagues that are German would be like, "It's working for me." And then that's how we figured out that it doesn't work in English for whatever reason, and they have no
Oh,
plans on fixing that functionality. So I had to
wow.
basically learn how to do it in German because it made no sense for them to train me in English, and then the
Yeah,
commands and everything were in German.
that makes
So
sense. Yeah.
yeah, I had to be like error messages, all that, because every time I see one,
Oh,
I'm like, oh my
man.
God, what am I supposed to do? And I
Oh,
had to
my
get used to
gosh.
seeing it in German.
Wow. Wow.
But
That's
it really
amazing.
helped. So I think with kids,
Yeah.
that's the best way, especially young kids, because they're learning
Yeah.
everything.
And that's, I mean, that's how we learn naturally anyway, by doing, the kids, you don't take a 1-year-old and, I mean, some people, they have flashcards and stuff, but really,
Yeah.
realistically,
Right.
I'm not one of those. I'm not knocking anybody. I'm just saying,
Yeah.
usually you let the children learn organically, and languages is the same way. So, yeah.
Okay. And so um so also your education, because I know you say yeah, went to Georgia State, then
Yeah.
you left Georgia State for Spelman, right?
No, I started at Spelman.
Oh, okay, okay.
Funny enough, because I was there during the time this whole Netflix series is about to come out.
Oh
You
my
know the one I'm talking about.
gosh. Oh my
Atlanta,
gosh.
Spelman, 90s. Yeah, I was there during the freaking. I don't think you'll see me on any of the videos, so. But I transitioned. I left Spelman after my freshman year because it was so expensive and I had a lot of life things happening. And I went to Georgia State, and so I initially my bachelor's is in economics, but I minored in Spanish, and that's when I was like, oh man, I really dig this Spanish. I want to do more. So then I went back and I got a second degree in Spanish and teaching. So that's how I did that. And then I didn't continue on for master's or higher levels up because I was too busy living and doing other stuff. But yeah, so Georgia State Panther, that's my alma mater. And I still claim Spelman because it touched me for the first, that was my first college experience and then transfer over. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's cool. I wanted to go to Georgia State. I wasn't really interested in Spelman because I was like, I don't have the funds. So
It didn't make sense after you really look at it. And for me, especially living in Atlanta, I'm like, a lot of the time is spent enforcing who you are as a Black person, as a Black woman. And growing up in Atlanta, I already kind of knew that. And so I didn't need that much. I didn't need to be paying what I was paying for one, for
right,
that portion of Spelman. I just give me the other stuff, the reading, writing, arithmetic stuff I need.
right.
So I could go to Georgia State for a fourth of the cost and get just as good an education and, not hurt my pockets and graduate with debt. So that was the cool part about going to Georgia State to graduate debt free.
Yeah. And Georgia State is a
Yeah.
good school. I was seeing that like their
It's a
business
great school.
program ranks on Forbes list because I really wanted to go, but I ended up going to Clayton State instead.
Clayton is beautiful. And so two of my kids, no, all of my, well, my daughter didn't, but three of my kids, they did, we started Clayton State as the dual enrollment program. And it's something that the high school didn't want to share at first. They was like, oh, you have to be a junior. And no, I started mine in 10th grade, dual enrollment at Clayton State. And I'll go visit the campus. It's beautiful,
It
beautiful.
is.
I was like, oh, yeah. So yeah, they did that. And I love that school as well. So I have what are they, ducks? No,
Yep, I was
swans.
about to say
What are
go
you guys?
Ducks.
Go.
Yep, go Ducks, the Lakers.
Yes, go Lakers.
Swans.
Yes. So yeah, but that's it. That's my educational journey so far. Never say it's never the end because we all are forever lifelong learners of
That's true.
something in one form or another, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And so I think and I probably I'm gonna say this every interview because I always ask these questions because I think it's really important. There's always gonna be somebody who resonates with your story. So whether you
Mhm.
have a bachelor's in liberal arts, which is kind of something that I have. Whether you have, you don't have a bachelor's, but you got your, you work and you got, from life experience, you were able to get whatever
Right,
position
right.
you got. Whether you have a master's or PhD, somebody's always going to say, okay, well, that's good to know. Like, it's validating. It's
Hmm.
validating. This is one of the reasons
Yeah.
that I do this. It is very validating because I said, I think I had somebody ask about, what about older language learners? And then, older is relative because people are like, what about older language learners? And I'm like, listen, I'm not trying to be in your business. How old are you? And then they'll be like, I'm 32. Lady, stop it. Okay.
Right, right. That's not older, ma'am.
Like, I'm thinking you going to say you 57 or something. Like, ma'am.
Right.
So I think it's very validating when people of all kinds of walks of life, ages, education, doing
Exactly.
whatever, come on here and say, this is my story with languages. So
Exactly. Exactly. Thank you.
now your other kids, did they, because I know you said they went with you to the Guadalajara. So
See,
do they also have the language like your youngest?
so not to the level, I mean, because she's more natural. Like I said, I started speaking to her in Spanish when she was a baby. And then when we got here, she was 3. So she's pretty much like, it's almost a first language almost for her. Now, those 3 older ones, there has been an ongoing thing in our family called the Spanish off, where my husband claims he speaks better Spanish than them. They all, studied with, they took it in Guadalajara, but they all took it in high school too, like, they had to, and they all went up to the next level to AP because, of course, I expect them to do more in Spanish, right? So
Okay.
they all speak it to some level, and 2 of them claim they're fluent, but I haven't heard fluency come out of them as much when they come to visit and stuff. And so there's supposed to be this test, and it
Hmm.
hasn't happened for years, between my husband and the kids to see who has the best Spanish, right? And we're going to do this Spanish off, and then the winner once and for all have the trophy.
That sounds like fun.
I know, but at this point, it's like, well, now they're like, well, it's no fair, Daddy, because you've been living down there for 3 years now. So yeah, clearly, he's like, yeah, but still, y'all supposed to know this and that. And one of my sons actually works in a Mexican restaurant, and so he's around it all the time. And then his girlfriend for the past few years is Latin, Afro Latina. So it's like, oh, it's not fair. This isn't fair. This isn't fair. I was just like, okay, whatever. Y'all can speak it, but you guys, I don't think none of y'all are fluent yet. Because then every time we go somewhere, they all like, tell them, mama, tell. I'm like, come on now. You can use your words. I got the words. I just don't want to. It's easier for you to say it. That kind of thing. It's so funny.
I
It's
will
so
say
funny.
this. I will say there's 2 instances about my dad. So my dad is from Cologne. He's from Panama, right? Black. And it's so funny because my mom, God rest her soul, she told me she was on a date with him when they were before they got married. And she said she was on a date. They went to some, I'm from New York, so it's like you hear Spanish like English. And she said they went to
Right.
some Spanish restaurant. The lady came, this happens all the time in New York, didn't speak English. They only speak like 2 words. That's very common. You go into a restaurant, they don't. You just kind of gotta, struggle through it. So she's struggling with the lady, telling her, pointing at the men, because my mom don't really speak Spanish at all. And then my dad, mind you, he's born and raised in Cologne, right? And I mean, you would never know it talking to him. He sounds like a New Yorker, but um the lady comes to him, he's struggling with the lady too. My mom's like, hey, why y'all just speak Spanish to her? And he's like,
Right.
oh yeah. Then he starts
Oh
speaking Spanish to
yeah.
her like it's nothing. And then
That's
the
funny.
same thing, like when she died, God rest her soul, we had her funeral at this place. It was like owned by, I think they were from Puerto Rico, I'm not sure. Anyway, same thing. The lady acting like she don't speak English. And I'm trying to explain to her, like, ma'am, you're not gonna charge me for I forgot what that's called, not the piano. You know the thing they play, the not the piano, but you know what I'm talking about.
The-
No, it's like a piano, like but it's not. It makes a different sound.
okay.
Da-da-da,
Okay.
da-da, like in the
The organ?
monsters, or I don't forgot
Yeah,
what it's
yeah,
called.
yeah,
But
yeah.
anyway, I said, you're not charging me for that. We got one. Because they trying to charge me
Right.
for it. I was like, no, no, no. And she was trying to, and then so I said, you know what? Dad, can you come talk to this lady, please? I said, please try to explain to me what this lady's saying. And so she talking, and the thing is, she's talking to him. And so because she's talking, she's for whatever reason, she'd start talking to him in Spanish, but slower. So as she's talking slower, I understand what she's saying, right?
Right,
And
right.
then um my and then my dad, all he does is he just says like, right, la diferencia. That's it. And I'm like, are you serious right
Shut down.
now? So I say that to say like it's very, 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 very plausible that they do, but for some reason
It
they just
happens.
like
It
how to
happens.
do it.
You could just shut down sometimes. Yes, I know. I know.
But he does that. That's why I'm like, okay, fine, whatever.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
I think that's really
Wow.
fun though, the Spanish off.
Yeah, I'm supposed to be putting it together, and I have no idea. Like, what do you do? A written test or speak? I have no idea. Because I can't be the judge. We got to have bring in some outside judges or something. But
Oh,
I
that
don't
would
know.
be
They've been talking about this
good.
thing for years.
That would be good. So you
Really?
should do a four-part thing. So reading, writing, listening, and speaking. And then they do have to
Okay.
do an exercise and everybody votes after each one. Do it and then make it like almost like Olympic. So Olympic
That sounds like
reading
a plan.
Spanish. And then
I like that.
they each have to read it. And then
Yeah.
whoever maybe reads it the quickest and gives a quick summary, and then they get scores. And then at
So do
the
they do
end,
it separately though? Because they can't be in the same do it at the same time
right?
because
No,
they'll
no,
hear
no.
the
So
other
like
one,
the
right?
first
Okay.
person
Okay.
comes in the room, you put the timer on,
Yeah.
let them read it, and then they give you the summary back, and then they all get scores. And then at the end, whoever has the highest total score wins the Spanish off. I don't know, it's just an idea.
No, yeah, that's a good idea. That's a good idea. I think
Because
that
the
that should
thing
go
is they
down this
have 4
summer.
chances. So because they
Right.
could get somebody could not be a good reader, but they could speak very well, they can understand very well.
Exactly.
So they have 4 different
Yeah.
categories, and then one category they may get really high, and so they have the other categories to kind of carry
They have the
them.
chance to balance it off. You're right. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. Okay.
So
All
you
right.
people out
All right.
there, if you're thinking about making it fun and you have, let's say you have multiple kids, maybe you can do a Japanese off, or if you
Mm.
that's a good I think I might do that with my niece. She's coming to visit me this summer.
She speaks German too?
She's learning it. So she's learning German,
Okay.
Spanish, and Japanese.
Wow.
Yeah, so we
Nice.
might do like maybe a Spanish off or a German off. That's a
There
good
you
idea.
go.
You put an idea in my head.
Thank you. Awesome. No, I think, yeah, I see it happening this summer. Yep. Yep. It's
Yay.
time. Yay. Thank you for the push.
No, no problem. Okay. And then what would you say was your hardest struggle with any of the languages? You can if you only really can remember some from Spanish, that's cool too, but what would you say like was the thing that was like, "Oh my God," and it took a lot for you to overcome it, or maybe you're still struggling with it?
Honestly, for me, with Spanish specifically, it was the different dialects because in college you have all these different teachers from all over the world in the Spanish speaking. I had the Spain and Catalan and oh my God, the Barcelonians and we had the Argentinians and it was just so many different pronunciations happening from playa to playa. I'm like, what, Joe? What? So that
Mhm.
was it took some time to adjust to that. And then, like I said, with the Mandarin, I took a pause on that because I was doing very well with the writing, believe it or not, even though
Mhm.
that's totally different from our Western writing. It was the phonetics of the speaking that got me so like it's just I have to train my ear and tongue to do
Mm.
better with that. So I'll jump back into the Mandarin. The writing, I guess because we can write at our own pace and we're also able to read at our own pace, but you can't listen at your own pace because once the word is said, it's said.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
And speaking, you don't want to be out there in the streets slow. Nobody's gonna wait 30 minutes for you to get your word
Yeah,
out.
that's
They'll be
true.
patient.
That's
Right.
true.
So yeah, so that's been one of the biggest parts was the different, discerning the differences in the dialect, and even here in Merida versus just Mexico City. Merida Spanish and Spanish in Mexico City is different. One experience I had when I was in Guadalajara, I learned the color brown as marron, right? I didn't know cafe. So I'm in the mall and I'm looking for some brown boots. And I was like, las botas marron, marrones or something. I was like, and the lady's looking at me sideways. And then I was like, marron, marron, she's like, cafe. I was like, okay, cafe for brown. I was like, okay, it's a whole nother brown word out there. It's been really fun learning. I mean, we have it in English too. And so why shouldn't we expect it to happen in other languages? And so now I'm open-minded to like, okay, I can't just be stuck on there's one word for this, one word for that, so I'm doing much better in that. And like I said, when I jump back into the Chinese, I'm gonna do better with training my ear and speaking because woo child.
Yeah, I can listen. I understand that. I'm struggling with the input with Spanish. Like I tried to watch the Spanish Sesame Street because they have a podcast on Apple Podcasts.
Hmm.
So I try to watch it and I do struggle sometimes like, huh, what am I hearing? Like I see what I'm watching and I'm like I don't understand. Like I need to rewind that.
Yeah.
So it is
Yeah.
tough. I think it's really tough.
I like for my students, Peppa Pig. I like, and it's funny
Yeah.
because for my daughter, yeah, because for my baby, she only watched shows in Spanish, like Pocoyo, Peppa Pig, any of the TV shows. I had them all in Spanish. And so, for oddly enough, once I didn't realize that she was British and she spoke with this accent. And I was like, what is that? And I was like, that's Peppa Pig. And I was like, oh, snap. Because I hadn't heard her speak English before. So, but Peppa Pig is a good Spanish cartoon for you to check out.
I'll have to check it. I do have a Peppa Pig playlist in French, so I will have to check that out. Interestingly enough, I
Yeah.
was watching Pocoyo in Spanish and I was researching it because my thing is I try to watch things that are not translated. That's why I watch the Sesame Street. I think it's called
Lots of
Sesame en
Sesamo.
la Comunidad because like they are
Okay.
actually speaking Spanish. It's not dubbed.
Right.
And I was looking at Pocoyo because I was like, if it's not originally Spanish, I'm not watching it. And interestingly enough, it was came from Spain originally.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I guess is that what Pocoyo means? Little me? Like,
I never thought about it like that. I thought it was just his name.
yeah, I thought so too. But I was like thinking like maybe
Yeah.
it means like little me. Like,
Maybe little me, Pocoyo. Plim Plim is another one. That one's from Argentina. Have you seen that one with the clown? Plim Plim?
what's it called?
Plim Plim. This Plim.
I'm gonna have to
Just
look that up.
Plim
Plim
Plim.
Plim. No, I did never heard of
Yeah.
that one.
Yeah. Those kids, I mean, they're little cartoon animals and whatever, and they speak just a little fast, but not too fast, but it's enough to help, like you said, with the native speaking. But they have real children speaking and not translating it over. So
I like that. I know I one that
yeah.
I can't seem to find. They took it off of Netflix. I was so hurt. La Abeja Maya, Maya the
Oh
Bee.
yeah. Yeah, she was so cute. It's gone.
Yeah. Yeah, they took it off. I
Oh,
used to watch that and they took it off. Just so you know, La Abeja Maya, it's originally German.
really?
So it was, I
Oh
think it was
wow.
called Divina Maya, is what it's called. And the book that it comes from, oddly enough, the premise is like actually very political.
Oh
So
my
it's
goodness.
like Animal Farm type of thing. Like you think, oh, okay, maybe it's something for kids, and then like it's like no, there's like a
Like
deeper meaning
no.
involved. Like it's like
Wow.
communism and like the powers that be and all that kind of stuff. It's really deep. I was like, wow, and to think they remade this for kids.
Right. Well, that's how all of our, the Sleeping Beauty, Snow White, all those stories, they had dark beginnings too. And what was the one with the little kids in the woods, Hansel and Gretel? Originally they had a bad ending. They really
Yeah,
died in the oven.
I was
Yeah.
reading that. That's also German, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I come to learn a lot of them were German. Bruder Grimm, like those are fairy tales called from Bruder Grimm,
Yeah, the Grim.
and they
Yeah,
were German
yeah.
originally, and I was just like, wow, it's
Wow.
crazy. Um, yeah, that one is a little bit like Wow.
Yeah,
And it's so funny, not to sidetrack, but a lot of them, like the endings that we have are not the actual endings
right.
because
Yeah,
and I just thought to myself, I remember reading like I think they said the reason that they had the um endings is like so kids can be aware like of the dangers and know like bad
that's
things happen in
creepy.
the world and you got to be
Yeah,
careful.
but no,
I was just
oh
like,
my.
that's a little much for little kids.
Right, right. There are other ways to explain that to them than putting it in their bedtime story, right?
Yeah, but I guess that's what
Uh,
that's one of those things that's like that's why, culture plays a big role into like the language and the things that we do because for us
that's
it's
true.
like no, we like to see happily ever after and stuff. And
Right. We want happy endings.
yeah, I think I watched a Netflix series that did not have a happy ending. In fact, it had a very messed up ending. It messed with
Mm,
me for a while. Like I just was losing sleep because my mind mentally, because we're so used to happy endings or at
right.
least decent endings, like
Yeah.
the fact that this I was so incensed. I was like, I'm gonna write the author. This is out of control. I can't believe this.
What show? You gotta tell me. You can't
I'm
just leave me
scared
hanging
to
now.
what show is that? It's a Netflix original, and my
Was
coworkers
it
told
you?
me that that was a good show. I was like, "Ugh." It was Behind Her Eyes or something like that.
Something like that? Okay. I've seen a preview for that, but I
Something
haven't
Blue
gotten into it.
Eyes.
Okay.
I don't know. But I know
Gotcha.
that I've seen some. I don't even watch German movies for that reason either. I don't know if you've noticed that. Does that happen with Spanish movies that they have like no happy endings or they have some messed up
I
endings?
haven't noticed the lack of happy endings, but we know that a lot of the shows, the movies themselves are far more graphic. Like some movies they would show, animals being hurt, whereas in the US you can't hurt an animal. Lord knows you can't show a dog getting run over in the
Mm-mm.
street, and
Uh-uh.
you can't do that. But yeah, a lot of the movies in Spanish they have all kind of stuff you would see and be like, oh wow, you believe they put this on film? So yeah,
Oh, okay. Oh
yeah.
goodness. And then I guess I don't want to assume, but
Okay.
out of the languages you touched, which one is your favorite one?
You would assume Spanish, and I would say Spanish, but I feel like once I get the hang of that Chinese, you won't be able to tell me nothing. But like, girl, Rocket, that's why I'm even like the people that speak Japanese and Russian and all these things. I'm really and honestly, where am I gonna go? I'm not planning to go to China or go nowhere. I don't have any Chinese friends to speak to, and that might be part of the reason why I've been a little hesitant about jumping in and trying to really, really learn it. Because I really want to get to Portuguese next and go on down to Brazil and hang out and do some of that.
Mm.
But what I found was when the language I'm learning, for me, it's different because learning something similar to what I already know, I keep mixing like the French and Spanish was messing with me, and I kept mixing it up. That's why I went totally different into the Mandarin because it was different and there's no way I could mix them up. You have that experience,
I
like when
do
you were
actually.
learning?
I just had it the other
Yeah.
day. I was on a call at work and I was trying to explain and I was trying to say the number 3 and in German you'd say Nummer drei and I end up saying numero tres and I was just like, I'm sorry, I'm studying Spanish and so it happens even though German and Spanish is
Right.
not alike. It happens, and I'm just
But
like
it's
and it
similar
happens when
enough.
I try
Right.
to say something in Spanish because 'cause I'm doing the 30-day record yourself challenge, and
I
sometimes
saw that. I saw that. You're doing great though. You're
I'm
doing good.
trying, and I think sometimes, like, I'll be like, "Heute ist," and then I have to redo the video, and then sometimes I just give up and I just let the video have the mistakes of if I say a German word or not.
Yeah. Yeah. That's part of the journey. Yeah.
But
So,
you
but yeah,
hadn't
so
had that
that's what
experience
so
with Chinese?
no. Because it's so different. To me,
Mm.
it's so different and it's weird. And I'm not speaking Chinese enough to where it's at the forefront of my tongue. Now the French, especially when I first started Spanish, I was we and everything. We. When I should have been saying C, of course. And it's like, this is not French.
Mhm.
So yeah, but I love Spanish. I love the way it rolls off our tongues when we
Mhm.
speak, you know. And but I'm just once I feel like once I get this Chinese down, I remember I went to a restaurant one time and I said something to the lady like "Wo xi nu yan," I'm a woman or something. I had just learned a few words and I wanted to use them. You know, and she was just like, "Why'd you say that? Why you learn Chinese?" It was at the Chinese restaurant. I was like, "Why is she so angry about this?" Right? Like, ma'am, this isn't just your language. We can all speak it, you know.
Right.
So yeah, I'm ready to blow some people away.
Did you have that
Is that
happen
bad?
when you like first was speaking Spanish? Did you have that happen in Mexico and people were just like shocked?
No, no, actually in Spanish, it was people assumed that I was Dominican or Cuban. Even here now, sometimes they think that I'm Cuban until I open my mouth and then my Southern twang, of course, kicks in. Because even when I speak Spanish, as long as I've been speaking it, I still have a Southern accent to it. So, but when they first see me, or I get Jamaican from time to time, but nobody ever seems surprised that
Okay.
I speak it. Yeah, yeah. What about you? In German, you speak the German and like, are you blowing people away?
Yeah, and it's so funny because I work at a global company, so a lot of people travel, like a lot of people come from the US sites here. And so
Yeah.
when they see me, even though I speak German, they'll just like start speaking English with me. So if they start speaking English with me, I'm just gonna speak English back. And then they'll see me in a meeting with some people and I'll be speaking German. They're like, "You speak German?" I'm like, "I didn't know we could be speaking
Yeah.
German." I'm like, "Well, you started speaking English with me." So I just
Right, right,
thought that was on brand. Like, I didn't
right.
know. And then you get, and then there are the people that are from the US. It's so funny. So then they come and then they see me and then they're like, uh, are you American? Your English is amazing. Like, what is it? I'm like, yes, I am. Yes, we're the same. I'm just like you.
That's funny. That is funny. Yeah. I do get a lot of people, of course, they want to practice their English with me, of course. I always want to
Mhm.
practice their English and stuff, those that have some English. And you know, it's fine, whatever. But sometimes there'll be, if you're in one mindset and I'm speaking to you in Spanish and they're expecting English to come out my mouth, it throws them off. And they're like, they act like they don't understand. I'm like, agua. I'm like, oh, agua. Yes, yes. And they're thinking, I don't,
Oh my goodness.
it's weird. Yeah, yeah, that has happened from time to time. But overall, it's good. It's all good. Everybody that we encounter here, they've been so accommodating for like a lot of my friends that don't speak and they try to help them out and, you
Hmm.
know, guide them along and stuff. And it's just been really nice. That's one of the reasons we love it here.
Oh, that's so nice. I'm
Thank
thinking
you.
about because I have another friend, she's in Mexico. She had went back to the US, then now she's in Mexico again. And she was like, you should come." And I was just like, "Okay." We had talked about it. I was like, "I think I might come." And then COVID happened. I was like, "Girl, I'm not going over there. I ain't leaving Germany. I'm staying right here."
Come
So now
on
that
over,
things
girl.
are
It's fun.
better, my mom might go over there.
Yes.
So I'm glad. I'm glad
Yeah.
to hear that.
Yeah.
Well, what so I got two questions. One
Okay.
question, actually three questions. One question
Okay.
I just thought about. So, did you I hate to bring up current events like that, but with the thing that
Okay.
happened with everybody got their opinion on why it happened, the four people that had
You
got
talking about the
kidnapped.
four Americans?
Yeah, did that
Yeah.
make you feel any way or no, didn't bother you?
We have so many people, a lot of our relatives in the States, and they send us these messages all the time. Watch out. You better get out of Mexico. The cartel there, this and that
Mhm.
and other. And they don't have an idea because they're not here. And I equated to, I was like, wow, that happened, but daggone it. Did I just see another school get shot up? Did I just see a Christian school get shut up? You know, and then I put it back to them and I'm like, guys, you got to understand, first of all, it's a whole country, you know, and you're going to have your bad. And I'm not just saying everything's, you know, pinky roses and stuff like that.
Mhm.
But yeah, there's some bad things that happen. But in our, Merida, if you look it up, we're one of the safest, no, I think the safest city in this side of the Americas. So that's why a lot of people are coming too. And I want to like, okay, no, too many people come. We want to keep it safe. But
Right.
right, but that didn't bother me for one. And like I said, there were a lot of holes in the stories in general, and it was just like things didn't seem to add up. But even if they did, that's way on the other side of the country. It's
Hmm.
like I'm in Atlanta worrying about something that's happening in Chicago. I just don't do it.
Hmm.
So, what's your other question?
So that was just my question. I just thought about it because I was like, yeah, you're in
Uh,
Mexico. The
yeah.
second question is, if you could give three tips about learning
Okay.
languages, the like three things that you feel like, oh, this was so valuable. What are those things?
One, I would definitely go into, if you're a TV watcher, go into TV and find you a movie or a series or something that you know well. Like if you watched Meet the Parkers or Fresh Prince or whatever, take that and put it in Spanish. And I would say start by having the subtitles and then in English so you can understand, then translate the subtitles to Spanish and then wean yourself off of the subtitles. So you're gradually weaning yourself off, but watch that same show because you know the characters and you know what's going on. And then, migrate over to a full-fledged telenovela, something that's authentic in
Mm-hmm.
Spanish, I would say. And then another tip I would say to find you someone that speaks your language. It seems easy to do, but it's not always easy. Like, oh yeah, I'm gonna go give me a Mexican friend. They don't just fall out of the sky like that. Of course not. But find a pen pal. Right? Real
Right.
talk. There are a lot of apps out there where you can do pen pals and find you someone that is willing to speak and don't let the English take over because most of the time, what I found out if you're an English speaker and you're trying to do a language exchange, everybody wants to learn the English and they want to
Mm-hmm.
put the English more than right. You understand? So don't let that take over. And then I would say definitely music because there are a lot of things in music you hear and you catch, and that'll give you a little bit of more an authentic way of hearing some things. What's the word? The slang, I guess, that you wouldn't necessarily pick up in the classroom.
Right.
So TV, music, and a friend. Or pen pal. They still call them pen pals. I'm telling my age.
All right. So I think those are really good those are really good tips. And then the last
Thanks.
question is, if we want to keep up with you, how can we follow you on social?
Okay. I am on Instagram as Tanita Bug, and I'll send you the link. And then I talked about my husband's channel. I also have a YouTube channel. It's called Mexpat Experience. So you'll see me and my daughter Ashlyn and husband, and you'll see all of my family. And you'll see what it's like when we first moved down here and migrated. So Mexpat Experience on YouTube and Tanita Bug on Instagram. So those are the handles.
All right. And then I'll put
Yeah, I
those
think that's
links
enough.
in the description box below as well. So,
Okay.
yes.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you again. I really appreciate you coming
Thank
and sharing
you.
your story. I'm sure that resonated with so many people, and
This
it
has
was
been
entertaining
awesome.
as well.
Thank you.
So everybody, just want to say, if you like this, give it a thumbs up. If you are not subscribed, please subscribe to the channel. Also, if you are a Black woman, this is a mutually inclusive event. You must be a Black woman at the same time. These two events, it occurs at the same time. If you are a Black woman, please join the Facebook group. It is a private, safe
Mm,
space, only Black women in there. So please, I invite you to join the group. There are other ladies in there posting lots of stuff about language, pairing up. We got WhatsApp groups going. So please do that.
nice.
And I guess I will just see you guys next time. Thank you so much. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.